right.
And we're live. Go ahead, Tim.
All right. Welcome back to On the Line podcast, your everything podcast with kayak fishing here in Kansas and beyond. I'm your host, Tim Boyden. And as always, joined by my brother, my co host, and the only angler I know who thinks a Ned rig is a guy he went to high school with. He's got a heart of gold, a tackle box full of tangled line, and somehow always ends up catching the biggest fish when the camera's not rolling. He's part of the comic relief, part chaos, and 100% my favorite person to fish with. It's my little brother, Tony Boyden, Captain Snack Break.
Accurate.
Sorry, I'll be reading here. So, we have a great first show for you tonight. We'll be joined by the top finishers from the Kansas Kayak Anglers Big Hill event. First up, have you ever heard of someone say, it's just a shaky head day? That's probably because they fish near Mark Pontuti. He's got a laid-back vibe, a voice you won't forget, and a knack for pulling fish out of the spots the rest of us gave up on. Let's give a warm welcome to first place finisher, Mark Pontuti.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Mark.
How's it going, Mark?
Pretty awesome introduction. I'm not going to lie.
Next, if you fish in or around Kansas and beyond, you probably might know our next guest as Blue Basser 86. Some say he's part fish. Others say his kayak GPS has never seen a wrong turn. But one thing's for sure, when Clayton Westgate shows up, the rest of us start working on our second place speeches. Let's welcome King of Kayakers and second place winner, Clayton Westgate.
Thanks, Clayton.
Third, if you've ever seen an angler slide into a boat ramp quietly, low key, nothing flashy, and then drop a 20-inch bass like it's no big deal, quiet off the water and deadly on it. He lets his fishing do the talking for him, and it speaks loudly. Big Hill, third place bass winner, and big bass winner. Let me introduce Jay Schwartzkopf. What's up, Jay?
Nothing
Jay.
much. How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Hey.
We'd also like to shout out all the 22 anglers who participated at Big Hill, including Derek Roberts, who got in the money with his fourth place win, and Austin Clemens, who won teams with Jay Schwartzkopf. Tony, over to you.
Yeah. Thanks for the intros, Tim.
Yep.
He worked really hard on those, so I hope you guys like them.
But I had to read them. So.
Clayton's had a little bit of a Chuck Norris vibe, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I loved it. Loved them all. So I'm just going to go over some quick rundown so everybody kind of knows what's going on coming up. The Kanza Yak Bass League at Milford Lake is this Saturday, June 14th. Check that out on Facebook. Kayak or Kansas Bass Nation, is at El Dorado Lake. It is June 21st. And if you're in the Missouri area, there's Moyak on Truman Lake. And then there's an All-American Series on Table Rock Lake, which is June 28th. And then our next tournament for the Kansas Kayak Anglers is a Roadrunner, which will be on July 12th. And it's Cedar Creek, Fort Scott, and Bone Creek. So you get to pick between the three. So also I wanted to mention that if you didn't see it on Facebook, all the AOI, ROI, and Big Bass Bonanza stuff has been updated on the website. Check them out. Make sure they're correct. If you have any issues with any of them, feel free to let us know. And actually, first is actually Jay. So good job, Jay. He's in first place with 294, and Clayton is very close with 293. So that's pretty close. And kind of new this year is the ROI, which is Jeff Patton is leading that with 249 points, but John Quanstrom is right behind him with second with 248 points. And then Ernesto Flores with 240 points. Now, this year we're doing 4 of the best, including championship, so it will be all equal. So there's technically 4 events left, so it could completely change. If you win the next 4, could be yours. So if you haven't come out yet, there's still a chance. All right. So everybody's kind of met Jay and Clayton on the last couple online episodes. So we kind of want to do a quick introduction with you, Mark, and talk to you a little bit about about you and just get to know you a little better. So, first off, how long have you been fishing?
Since I was 2 years old. As soon as I could hold a rod in my hand, we were doing it. Both my mom and dad used to love fishing, so pretty much grew up my whole life doing it. Started off the bank fishing for carp and catfish, and I think I only started getting into bass fishing around 13 years old. I saw some guy standing in the water waist deep throwing this plastic worm out in the middle of nowhere and catching this fish that started jumping 2 feet up in the air, and I thought, man, that looks cool. So next day I went out, bought a few plastic worms, and I was hooked after that. So pretty much been doing it my whole life.
That's awesome. So where did you grow up that you do your bass fishing at?
So a lot of us started in South Africa and started the first couple of years was just fishing off the bank, and then started getting, my dad decided to buy a bass boat, and that was his biggest mistake. And so I started getting into bass fishing with the boat. I couldn't drive or anything, so he had to take me all over, but he was a good sport and he enjoyed it as well. So, but he put me on the front of the boat, and I drove the trolling motor since I was 16 years old, and pretty much did that until I left South Africa and came to the States and in 99 and beat the banks for about 7-8 years, and then the whole life side of things happened with kids and all of that, so gave it a bit of a break, and then started picking it up again probably around 2013-14. Decided I didn't want to beat the banks anymore, and
I think Mark cut out a little bit there.
He'll be back.
All right, we'll give him a second to come back. We'll go ahead and we'll jump back to Mark when his signal gets back there. But Tim, if you want to start doing some of the tournament breakdown.
Yeah, absolutely. So Clayton, we'll start with you. What was your game plan going into the tournament with all the rain and storms and water levels fluctuating, and just what was your game plan? Oh, there you are, Mark.
You back, Mark?
Sorry about that. It looked like my internet took a bit of a break over there for a second. It's back now. So, yeah, pretty much, guys. As I say, can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
you. We hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, started beating the banks and got a pontoon, one of those fly fishing pontoon things, and did that for about 2-3 years, and then started seeing the whole kayak scene come on the scene, and decided, it might be better getting a kayak. And I got that at about 2017 and started tournament fishing, I think, probably 18 or 19.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. I'd be curious. So do you fish for the same kind of bass in South Africa and stuff, or is it different species?
Yeah, they've got
other species we don't have.
Yeah, they got a lot of the story of how bass got into South Africa. Apparently, some farmer imported 22 fingerlings from the States to put in around. And that was, I think, in the 1920s or 30s, I think it was around there. And so there's two.
No, it's interesting. Come on.
Yeah, I really want to know.
I know there's some really big bass in South Africa.
That's okay.
Good.
There is. They started putting Florida strain in around the early 70s, and the Florida strain just took off in South Africa. And they've pulled in, I think the biggest bass is around 18 pounds that they've pulled out.
Wow.
So yeah. I didn't get any of those. The biggest fish I ever caught in South Africa was actually, I fished I made the South African team championship, and the biggest fish I caught was in that tournament. It was just over 8 pounds. So that's my big PB weight-wise.
That's really cool.
Wow.
So you kind of said you got into kayak fishing back when after you kind of seen it coming on the scene. So when did you do your first tournament, roughly, for kayak fishing?
First tournament was actually, I don't know if you guys remember the MoCan tournament series.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was maybe 1 or 2 that I fished before COVID hit. I think I just started just before COVID was starting, and so the whole live scene, I think that was my first tournament was Mazinga, was my first live tournament, and then after that it was all the road runners through NECA, and so I fished with the NECA before it became KKA, did Heartland as well, a little bit as well. So I just tournament side of things. I did a lot of, as I say, it happened from 2000 to 2015. It was with pleasure fishing, and I always missed the tournament scene. So that was part of the reason why I started getting back into it with the kayak side of things.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite body of water you like to fish? Like
any water is a good water. As long as I'm not working, that's I'm happy.
I hear you there. Well, thanks, Mark. I hope everybody got to know you a little better. I really enjoyed the South Africa bass stories. I didn't know that, so I learned something. So thank you, Tim. I will turn it back over to you. So
and I'll kind of start with Clayton, then Jay, then Mark, since we've kind of already talked to Mark a little bit. Clayton, what was your game plan going into the tournament with the rain fluctuations and the temperature changes and everything going on, muddier water?
I really hoped that I'd be able to get a good bite out of the water willows. And in practice, I did. I had a really good bite going on the water willows, mainly a swim jig, just fishing that through the water willows, and they were crushing it. I was the morning, Friday morning, in like 2 hours, I had almost 87 inches.
Oh, wow.
And once the sun came out, it stopped completely. But I thought I could probably get something fairly close if they bit good again in the morning. But the tournament morning, I didn't really realize it until probably an hour and a half into the morning how much the water had actually dropped overnight, until I got to my secondary spot where there was a very noticeable log that I had caught a fish off of the day before, and it was way further out of the water than it was the day before. Because everything else I fished, it didn't really, there wasn't any real noticeable landmarks or anything, I guess. But I started right there by the ramp because there's always some fish there, and I thought I would get a quick limit right by the ramp, and I didn't get a bite. Not a thing. And everybody I talked to during the tournament, it seemed like was talking about catching them on a crankbait or catching them on topwater, catching them on chatterbait. They must have been fishing a different lake because I could not get it on bait at all. I was going around with a really light Texas rig with a Z-Man bang stick, just casting that up to the edge of the water willows and fishing it back really slow. And just every once in a while, one would surprise me. That's really what it felt like all day. Every bite didn't really have any kind of rhyme or reason to it. Some of them were on point. Some of them were in the back of the cove. Some of them were halfway back. Some of them were on wood. Some were just on the grass. I just couldn't figure out what they were doing. I just felt lost all day. I ran into Derek, I don't know, like 10 o'clock in the morning. He said he was hooking fish left and right on a crankbait. I just felt so lost. I already felt lost, and he told me that. It's like, how are you getting bit on a crankbait, man? I picked a crankbait up, made a cast, and lost a catfish. That was the only bite I had on a crankbait all day. And then right there at the end, I decided that I was going to go back to the ramp and see if I could get one of those fish to bite. And I thought I had a sunfish tapping at my Ned rig, and I kind of half-hearted hook set, and an 18-inch smallmouth flew out of the water, and I got real lucky that it stayed hooked, and that fish was about a 4-inch coal, so that was a pretty significant one. That was my only Ned rig bite all day, other than the billion sunfish in that lake.
Now, Clayton, was that after you tried to come over to help me, or was that before you came over to help me?
That was before.
Yeah, that's where I was headed. So your luck has no ends.
I fished that wall for an hour in the morning, and I didn't get a nibble.
Yeah,
nothing. So yeah. Interesting. Well, Jay, let's go to you. What was your game plan going into the tournament with the rain and the water levels and murky water?
I got to the lake or got on the water about 11 Friday, so I done missed the morning bite basically. And I just kind of fished around and tried a few different baits. Was getting a bit decent on just flipping a Texas rig around the edges, and I looking at the forecast, assuming it was going to rain or be fishing in the rain for maybe an hour or so in the morning. I was kind of like Clayton, hoping for a good bite in the morning, and kind of set up for that, and that didn't pan out. So ended up catching one on a Ned that had bumped a buzzbait, and then kept cycling through baits and nothing, and started throwing the Ned again along the edge, grass edge, whatever, and started catching them. So I just at some point basically decided I was just going to keep throwing the Ned and not even try anything else. So not what I wanted to do, but it was working.
Yeah. Yeah, the day before I had a black and blue one on the dam, and I was catching them pretty good. And I went back, and the whole dam, I don't think I caught a single fish. Changed to like a California crawl Ned rig, and started getting them.
Yeah, I was throwing California crawl during the tournament.
Yep.
Pre-fishing, I caught a couple on a June bug color.
Yeah.
But
it was amazing though, that color difference. I was like, if the water's murky, you think you'd be better off throwing the black and blue, but man, that California crawl was the ticket on that one. But
yeah,
very nice. All right, well, Mark, what was your game plan going into the tournament?
I was going to have fun because I only decided to fish that tournament on the Thursday because I wasn't sure if I was going to get off work to be able to actually go. So I couldn't get out and actually do any pre-fishing on Friday. I only got there at about 7:30 in the evening. And so I just took a drive to the ramp on the south side. It was I had an inclination that the water was way up compared to last year. And I could see that it was a lot murky. And I knew that river. I'm not a good guy fishing in the rivers when it's chocolate brown. So I knew that was going to be probably blown out, and I just didn't feel like fighting with the trees. So I made a game plan of fishing down on the riprap down by the dam area, and kind of try to use some of my history. I think I did well 2 years ago there fishing that area, and last year it sucked. So I'm a sucker for punishment. I thought I'd try doing it again, and yeah, I got out there in the morning, and there was already, I think, 5 or 6 guys already sitting around that riprap area. So I just moved across to the other side and started fishing that bank. And I had a real slow day up until about 1 o'clock. Up until 1 o'clock, I think I had 4 fish, and the biggest was 12 inches. I had 2 11s and a 10. And I thought, man, still better than working, but this sucks. And so was actually making my way. I was looking back at the riprap at the ramp, and I could see nobody was over there. So I thought, well, I got an hour and a half left. Let me make a run back there and see what I can do. And on the way back, I had marked. Last year, the water was pretty low at Big Hill when we fished it. So I had marked a whole bunch of rocky areas and brush piles and stuff like that. And I was actually started to make my way back there, and I had marked some a tree and some rocks close by to it, but it was sitting at about 14 feet of water, and I'd been fishing mainly like 10 feet and less, like trying to do the willows and the grass and trees on the bank, just getting nothing. And so I knew last year that area had produced a few fish, so I stopped over there before I got back to the ramp, and within like 10, 15 minutes, I got a 14 inches the first fish, a 13 inches the second fish, and I got another 8 fish within like 10, 15 minutes, like back-to-back casts, but they just kept getting smaller. So after about 15 minutes, I thought, all right, I got my 2 bigger fish, let me head back to the ramp. And there was an area I had in mind when I got back there, because I remembered another rocky area just off that riprap area, and as I was going across, I marked a similar area that I was fishing at 1 o'clock that looked almost the same. And I marked a couple of fish that looked like there was a drop-off, and there was a couple of fish sitting on top of the drop-off. And so I dropped a waypoint there, fished that other spot that I was fishing, and then literally flipped like 90 degrees to where the other waypoint was. And I threw in there, and I got the lightest tap that I've ever felt from a fish. I didn't even think it was a fish, but it's like strike and ask question later type deal, and I did, and I put it was a 16 and a half incher that I threw in the boat. picture. I've realized that it takes me 10 minutes to take a picture and start fishing again, because I took a picture of that 16 and a half. I flipped back into the exact same spot. I got another bite. I pulled back and I had a 20-incher. There's the next fish. And threw that in, took the picture, cast it back in there, and the third fish hit, and there was 19 and a half. Literally all those fish came in like 20, 25 minutes. I went back and looked at my pictures, and it was like a 10-minute timestamp with each of them. So that was crazy. I think those fish just came up to feed. I think I sort of noticed it the year before. You'll fish an area and you'll get nothing, and then there'll be a window where they'll come up and feed, and you'll catch like a couple in a row, and then we'll go dead again. And yeah, they pretty much, I think it was just being right in the right spot at the right time when they came up. And it was that I've always heard people say, go wait and never give up until that last minute. And it was like it was one of those times where you don't give up until the last minute, because that window was from about 1:45 until 2:10. When all of that
You're
happened.
probably sitting there in disbelief, like, what is going on?
I couldn't believe it. The worst part is I threw in and I missed a fourth one there. So exactly, they felt exactly the same as I was going through. So that was crazy. I've never ever had that happen in a tournament or even pleasure fishing.
The guy next to you is over there crying.
That's the thing, is like when guys see me, like I'm not one that's a power fisherman and runs and guns and stuff like that. I'll find an area and I'll like milk it for as much as I can if I think there's fish there. And it's pretty much what I was doing over there. Is I found an area, I thought there was fish in there, and I was just going to try figuring out how to catch them in the last hour and a half.
Very nice.
Yeah, those were the last 3 fish of the day.
Jeez, that's crazy. Tony, could you go down about 15 more spots to see where I finished down there? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that, Mark. Clayton, this is to you. That's a nice smallie. How did you choose your boat ramp and location? I know there's only a couple ramps there, but did you choose it just past history and you just decided you're just going to go to that middle boat ramp? Or Nope. Can you hear me okay?
Who was that to? Clayton or me?
Oh, to Clayton. Sorry, Clayton. Clayton, how did you choose your boat ramp and the location?
Well, in pre-fishing, I wanted to go to the river, and pre-fishing the river was just blown out. So that mid-lake area was just kind of my secondary choice, which is I made it up to the river during the tournament, and it was way clearer than it was in pre-fishing. So if it had looked like that in practice, I probably would have started up there. But yeah, I just started right there with just mainly because the river was blown out. So it's kind of my fallback area.
All right. Jay, what about yourself? Why did you pick the ramp and what you chose?
Basically same reason, just mid-lake. I'm cheap. I usually just do the primitive camp right up the road from the ramp there, and you can go to the dam or you can go up the river or whatever you want to do from there. So.
Gotcha. And Mark, we kind of know why you went up there.
Yeah, past history.
You know those big fish were sitting up there.
Couldn't find them last year, but I found them this year.
Yeah. So, Mark, what was you kind of explained this, but the turning point in your day, and what helped you lock into your final numbers in? Like, obviously that spot that you picked had something to do with it, but that was your turning point. It sounds like that 1 o'clock time period.
Yeah, I was just trying to find something different that I hadn't done the rest of the day, because I knew after like 6 hours that whatever I was doing wasn't working. And so I pretty much I made a run, and I think about just before that, those big storm clouds were coming in, I really started making like a 2-mile run around the lake to try finding something different, because I knew doing wasn't working. And I know one of the coves I've normally done pretty well in there, and I fished that cove and I didn't even get a bluegill in there. So I tried fishing some trees and stuff like that, didn't get anything, and I was literally, as I say, making my way back to the ramp. And part of what I'm trying to do now is try finding offshore structure and try getting back to some of that stuff. And once I've marked it, and I actually got one of those Garmin XD24 heading sensors and GPS that's supposed to make things a lot more accurate. And so I've been playing around with that for the last couple of weeks, and that seems to have made a difference on finding the structure that I've marked in the past, because I don't know how many times I'd mark a brush pile and I'd come back a week later and try to find it, and it was like 20 feet off to the right because the GPS signal on the head unit wasn't very accurate. So yeah, it's part of what I'm trying to learn this year is use electronics and try using some of that stuff to find offshore stuff.
Okay. So with that question, were you using the same bait pretty much all day, or did you change at that 1 o'clock hour? Did you change to a different bait, and that's what started the process?
I was using a Ned rig in the morning. Tried top water, and that I didn't even get a blow up on a top water. I threw a bit of crankbait as well. Didn't even get a touch on the crankbait, and pretty much realized that I need to probably just slow down even more. And I've always done pretty well at Big Hill with a 7-inch zoom shaky head. In a plum color, or Junebug color, and which is funny because I normally fish green pumpkin everywhere else except at Big Hill. So it's always worked pretty well for me over there, and because of that stained water, it just made sense. So I thought, well, if I'm going to go for broke, Ned rig wasn't working, so let's go bigger and put on a heavier weight to keep it on the bottom, and that was the ticket.
Very nice. Clayton, what about you? What was your turning point in the day and helped you lock in that final number?
Mine was probably pretty early on when I realized that they were just pretty much shut down, and I kind of locked the Texas rig rod in my hand and decided I was just going to pick stuff apart and fish slowly, try to basically cover water slowly as quickly as I could. They really just seemed like they were in a very negative mood, and I felt like my best chance was to try to put my bait in front of as many fish as I could, but then try to present it the best I could while I was headed there, and and then making that last 45-minute decision to go back to the ramp and see if I could pick a fish off and get that one big smallmouth off the ramp. So I didn't have anything else. I was going down a bank I had no confidence in at that point, and I kind of just came to that realization that I wasn't going to catch anything. I wasn't fishing with confidence, which is, to me, is a huge factor. If I'm not feeling confident what I'm doing, I need to go do something else. So I just packed it up and made that run back to the ramp, and it was my first or second cast up there to the ramp, and it was just tap 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 while I started dragging that Ned rig, and I almost didn't even set the hook on it because I was sure it was another sunfish, and I'm glad I did.
Very nice. Jay, what about yourself? What was your turning point? You have a turning point?
Probably catching the big fish, to be honest.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Because without that, I really didn't have much of a limit. So, I mean, deciding to just stick with the Ned helped. But
did that big fish come on the Ned rig?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Close to the grass edge. Luckily, it headed away from the grass when it bit instead of burying itself. So, was able to get it close to the boat, and it was still a kind of stressful 30 seconds or so.
Did it jump or?
It didn't really jump. It pulled a few times, went back up into the grass right beside me, and then under the kayak once. But it splashed around, but never really came too far out of the water.
Very nice. Yeah, you always catch those 20s. I don't know how you do it.
That's the first 20 I've caught all year.
Oh, really?
Even fun fishing.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Hey, Tony, what about you? I seen you caught a 19 and a half, was it? First thing in the morning? What's that? Oh, can't hear you. I think you're mute, son.
How's that?
There you go. What about you? I know I talked to you on the way up to the dam, and you're like, I caught a big one.
Yeah, true story. Usually when I catch a big one, Jay catches a bigger than I do. So
That
he's
is
knocked
true.
me out a big bass at least 5 times. But yeah, I caught a 19.5. I had to been not even 10 minutes into the tournament, and on actually a Biz Baits buzz bait. I'm actually curious what time it was. But yeah, then I caught another smaller one on a buzz bait, and then it kind of just died off. So, but yeah, it was first thing in the morning. I was like, then my luck just went straight downhill from that. So I was trying to find. Yeah, it was 6:36 when I caught it. As when I took the picture, so I think it might have been my second cast. So
Very nice. Yeah, the night before, I kind of went back into that boat ramp in that middle ramp area, and I had 3 nice blow-ups on a buzz bait, and I was like, oh man, this is where I'm coming back to. And then I went back, fished that whole cove with a buzz bait, crickets. I leave the cove, I see Tony, I'm like, hey man, how'd you? Oh, I caught a 19.5 on a buzz bait. I'm like, so I was like, I just left and went to the dam. I was like, I'm gonna go fish rocks. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. So we kind of know what's that.
I was like, did you catch yours in the morning, Jay, or was it the afternoon? Or
The big one,
yeah,
it was probably 10 or so.
Okay.
It definitely wasn't morning.
Well, I guess we've already kind of covered this too. How did storms affect your day, and what changes did you make from practice? And we kind of covered that. And then I think we've covered this before, but Mark, do you have any pre-tournament rituals that you do, or any superstitions that you do from South Africa?
Nothing from South Africa, but yeah, normally when first cast, I normally only cast like 3 feet in front of me. I don't want to catch a fish on the first cast, so I normally do that sacrificial first cast and then start fishing. I don't know why, because I've never fished a tournament and caught a fish on the first cast, but it's like one of those things that's been always in the back of my mind that it affects somebody else. So might as well just get it out there right off the bat and I'll worry about it afterwards.
Yeah. I think Austin Applegate does the same thing. He throws it over the back of his head so he gets it out of the way early. So
my luck, it would land and come swinging back and get a hook in the back of my head. So
yeah.
Derek said he had a front row seat to Jay's big fish. He knew it was big from where he was on the other side of the cove. So
very nice. Clayton, what about yourself? Do you have any pre-tournament rituals that you do, or superstitions?
Nothing that I can really think of. I just try to have everything prepared. I like to be somewhat organized, but I don't have any real rituals or anything that I do. I just go out there and try to catch fish.
Yeah. I know one of your rituals is, hey, Clayton, did you do good? I caught a couple small ones, and that's like 97 inches on your video. And I'm like, oh.
I thought it was locking the Crocs into 4-wheel drive.
Yeah. Jay, what about yourself?
Oh, not too serious. I kind of have a white drink can issue. I've had some bad tournaments with white cans. So I try to avoid that. I pushed it away last year, but it seemed like it might have haunted me anyway. But then I've had a few tournaments that I've won. I've screwed something up the morning of the tournament, like jackknifing the trailer at 3 a.m, or breaking landing gear on the kayak, or random stuff like that, and I've ended up winning. So at this point, if I break something or damage something in the mornings, I have a feeling that I could do good for the tournament at least.
Very nice. Are any of you guys doing? Go ahead, Tony.
I said I may have to try to break something in the morning. Yeah. Mine breaks at the end of the day.
I backed into my trailer and broke my tail light out, but that was the end of the day. Are you guys doing El Dorado by chance?
Yeah,
Jay, you're going to do it?
Yeah.
You're not Clayton?
No.
Yeah, I'm 50-50 right now, trying to decide on work stuff, but I'll be able to get out there or not. Maybe another game time decision if I do.
I heard the water's pretty dang high down there, so I don't know how that's going to affect everything.
It is. I've driven over it for work recently. It's way up in the creeks.
Really?
I guess they could release a lot of it, but there's a lot of water in places that I haven't seen water down there in a long time.
That's going to be interesting.
I would like to fish it. I enjoy fishing El Dorado, but
I'll add to that, Tim. Are you guys doing Bone Creek, Cedar Creek, Fort Scott?
Yeah.
Any tips for first timers down there? Choose a specific lake, or no? You don't have to give away the juice. Just curious if you had any thoughts.
Bone Creek's hit and miss.
Yeah.
But if they're off at Bone Creek, they are off.
Yeah.
It is terrible if they shut off, but it's got a lot of big fish in it too. If they're on, they can be really on.
I think
if you don't like timber, don't go to Cedar Creek because you can't hardly get a kayak through a good portion of it.
Oh wow!
I'd say Fort Scott's good for a lot of little fish. Like if you
Fort
want to get
Scott's got a lot of big fish too.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
but there's a
if you
lot
like
of little
fishing-
fish too. You got to weed through those.
If you like fishing docks, Fort Scott's a lot of fun too.
Mm-hmm. I don't like fishing docks.
Fort Scott's a little bit better. That's one of the docks I don't mind down there. They're pretty fun.
Yeah, I don't mind those kind of docks because there's space to operate around those kind of docks. It's not Lake of the Ozarks where there's this much space in between every dock and you can't hardly make a cast. You got plenty of room to get back and fish all around every dock.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pretty good offshore fishing. There is at pretty much every one of them, but Fort Scott's got pretty good offshore fishing too.
Yeah, there's a video out there of a guy catching 5-pounders on an A-rig way offshore. And so I haven't found those brush piles, but I know they're in there.
Yeah,
but there's like good smallie population too.
Which
and
one?
mean mouth.
Fort Scott.
It's got spots. I don't think it has smallies.
Yeah, I caught Tony and I both got them, didn't we, Tony?
I've got smallies there.
I've never
Small
seen
one.
a smallie out of there. I've seen spots out of there.
Yeah, I've caught lots of spots out of there too, but we caught quite a few smallmouth out of there.
Huh.
Yeah.
They're not giant, but
No big ones. They were all 10 inches or so.
I know that little mud hole over there by it, Elm Creek's got some smallmouth in it, or it used to. I've caught a couple out of it.
Oh, very nice.
I think
So-
does Bone Creek have smallmouth in it,
I don't
think so.
I don't think so.
but Cedar Creek does, correct?
They do.
I don't think so.
Cedar Creek, I think they're small, but I was fishing off the bank and caught some smallmouth off the bank at Cedar.
Never seen one out of there either.
Really? Yeah, I got something on you.
I haven't fished Cedar a whole lot, so I know it's got some big fish in it, but it's just it's so hard to fish. Like anybody that's fished Kreitzer, it's worse than Kreitzer.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
timber, it's got more timber than Kreitzer has.
Yeah, I think there's a better boat path through the middle though. At Cedar, if I remember right. Or am I thinking of? That's what I'm thinking of. I haven't fished it from my kayak. I just fished it from.
But
Cedar has the 2 ramps.
Yeah.
there's 2 ramps. There's a ramp on the east and west side, but there ain't a whole lot of paths. You're kind of bushwhacking through that place. But I mean, if you like fishing heavy cover, it's definitely a place to bring some heavy line and heavy rods and try to catch some fish out of it. But I know there's been some little boat tournaments that have kicked out almost 30-pound limits out there. So
Oh, wow.
it's got big fish in it.
Yeah, I'm not that good, but I'll probably fish it if I get the day off the day before, just because I've never kayak fished it. So, and then my fallback I'll either go to Bone or Fort.
It's
Fort
a good
Scott.
place to break stuff too.
Maybe I should stay away from that. I've broken enough stuff recently.
Every time I see Tony's doing about 5 mile an hour through trees, I'm like, dude, you better slow down.
Yeah. You gotta make sure you got a way to lay your rods down at that lake. Have them straight up in the air down there is not going to work. Not for very long, anyways.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So, Mark, let's get into some more questions. What kind of electronics are you running in your kayak?
Yeah, right now I'm just running a Garmin 93 SV. I've just got side imaging. I haven't put the bullet and done the forward-facing sonar or anything like that. Because I hunkered down, I just rely on that right now.
Yeah. Very nice. Well, I heard that KKA is actually got a band forward-facing sonar. So, Clayton, let's go to you. What do you got?
There's going to be a screen limit size as well of 5 inches, right?
Yeah.
I'm in trouble all the way around. Even the one I got right now is 7, so I have to steal the one back off of my kid's kayak.
So what are you running, Clayton, for your setup now? I know that you've upgraded a little bit yourself.
Well, right now it's kind of in limbo between a Lowrance Elite 7 Ti. It's been good for me. There's nothing wrong with it, but now I got the 106 Garmin and the 34 live scope transducers. So with the was it 56?
Oh yeah, 56. Yep.
56 standard transducer for the for my regular sonar also. So I've got the battery for that on the way, and then once they get that, everything will be ready to go. So hopefully I'll have it by not this weekend, but the weekend after, and I can actually get out and start trying to figure out how I'm actually supposed to use this thing. It's not real sure what I've got myself into with it, but I don't know. It ought to be fun to play with.
Yeah.
I'm going to be catching so many crappie. I can't wait.
And white bass and
yeah. I could have scoped so many channel cat at Big Hill last weekend.
Jay, what about yourself? What do you have?
Garmin 93 SV also on my big kayak, and then just a Garmin 7-inch on my little kayak if I'm just pedaling only.
Okay. Tony, what do you got?
Well, as soon as I come up to your house and get it, I'll have a 93 SV. And then I just bought LiveScope 6 weeks ago with the LSV 34. Did I say that right? Yeah. And I figuring it out too. Actually, when I was down at 10 Killer, something is wrong with this. I don't know what is going on. Well, if you didn't know, the transducer has you can turn it like a eighth of a turn, and that's for down imaging. So I had it in the down imaging position while I was forward facing, and so I was only seeing 20 feet in front of me, maybe 30, and then sometimes it almost be like it would flip and turn around on me. Well, figured that out, and I'm like, oh, this is so much better. Now I can see my bait 70 feet in front of me. And so actually, when I was down at 10 Killer, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, I actually scoped my first fish and actually caught it off the bottom. I seen it hit it and everything. It was really cool. So yeah, if you're setting it up, make sure you got it in the right position. So yeah.
Very nice.
And you, Tim?
I just got Austin 293 SVs, and I just got a 32 for my Panoptics. But I don't use Panoptics as much as I used to. I'm a power fisherman, so I just kind of beat the bank and use it to guide me through trees, the Panoptics. So, but yeah. All right. Well, Tony, you got any more questions?
No. I do have one question, but it's the final question. We have kind of a fun question. We try to ask one fun question. We're going to call it Off the Hook is the segment. So based on your guys' experience in fishing the lakes in Kansas, if you could rename a lake in Kansas based on your personal experience there, what are you going to name it? And it can be good or bad. So you can't take this one. This was Tim's. He said he would call it Drum Lake or something of that nature for Perry Lake. So Drum City Lake or something like that. So is there a lake that you absolutely hate or you absolutely love that you might rename?
Mark?
I despise El Dorado. I'll call it the lake that sucks.
Lake Succo?
Okay, there we go.
El Horrible?
Yeah, El Succo. Yeah, I like that one.
El Succo. I'm not a fan of it either. I think I caught 3 fish. That was the first time I fished it last year, and I caught like 3 fish, and I got 6th, I think. So.
Yeah.
And Derek, in the comments, you can say your lake too if you want.
Yeah. Anybody else that's watching? We only got 3 right now, but if you're watching and you can think of a lake, drop in the comment. We'll definitely post it up there. Clayton, you got any lakes you'd like to rename?
I don't know any that I really hate, but man, I think El Dorado, like lake where the wind always blows. That's the windiest lake.
It is pretty windy.
Every time I go down there, thinking that or Cedar Bluff, either one.
Cedar.
Every time I go, I think that I'm going to spend some time getting to pre-fish some different water where I don't normally fish, and the wind just cancels that real quick. Even the days, they say, well, the wind's only going to blow 5 to 10 miles an hour, and I get there and there's just rolling white caps, and I hate it. I could deal with some wind, but down those 2 lakes, the wind's just always crazy. Every time I've been to either one of them.
Yeah, Cedar Bluffs is horrible. Last year, I think on Friday everybody was off the water at like 1 o'clock because of the wind.
We didn't even put our kayaks on the water Friday. We talked about it in the morning and just decided that it wasn't worth it. So we just went and walked the dam and caught a whole bunch of fish walking the dam.
I came around that point and tears started coming out of my eyes because I had to cross to that boat ramp up on the north end. And I see someone standing over in the dock, and I got everything all tucked away in my kayak, put on the big life vest, and started taking off, and you'd see a tree, and then like 6 foot high, and then the tree would disappear, and you're like, so I almost called Tony and said, hey, pick me up at the dam because I don't think I can make it. I was like, screw it. So I went, and it was probably, I don't know, it was 40-mile-an-hour winds. But I was going up, and the water was coming over my trolling motor, hit me in the chest. I get across finally, and Scooches is sitting there laughing at the dock. I was like, so what did that look like? Like someone was going to die? I was like, yeah, I thought I was going to die. There was water inside my kayak. I'm like, man, that was stupid. But
yeah, that's why both of us talked about it, and we got maybe an hour and a half of we could fish a little bit, and then we're gonna have to head straight back to the dock, and neither one of us wanted to do that, so we just called it a day before the day even started.
Jay, you got a lake you'd rename?
No, I don't know. I have one that used to be my favorite that I'd probably call the Dead Sea now, but I ain't gonna say which one it is.
I think we all know. At least I take a good guess.
Wilson?
Yep.
You're not speaking that name.
Still?
Huh? I know there's fish in there somewhere. I don't know if they're all just hanging out offshore or what, but it's tough right now. And all the stuff, all my favorite stuff's totally bone dry. So
Nope. Is it down
came up at all?
it's like, no, it came up like 2 inches or something like that, but it's like 5 foot low.
Oh my goodness.
Jay, I'd be curious. We have the Kansas Bass Nation because it's gonna be separate this year from the KK at Cedar Bluffs in October.
Yeah.
Have you ever fished it that late in the year?
I fished it in October last year, and as you guys were talking about, the wind, it was forecasted an east wind, I think, that morning. So I was like, hey, I'll go fish along the dam. I was just going fishing. Didn't really matter where I was going. I get to the boat ramp, and it's blowing out of the southwest. So I launched, tried to fish, and it was just too much. Drove around to a different ramp, launched there, caught a couple nice ones, and then the wind switched to out of the east, and then that was no longer fishable. So I loaded up and went home. But
Would you say that
it could be good, it could be tough. It gets a lot of pressure throughout the whole year, so that's part of it too.
Would you say the fishing is different? Like you fish differently in October than, say, August or June or whenever? You fish it a lot different.
I don't really know, to be honest. I guess it's going to depend on the day and the year. You know, if October's warm or if October's snowing.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
I mean, when I was there in October, it was fishing similar to in the summer, but it's a little bit of fishing I could do before I got blown off.
Yeah, that place is always so windy. So
Tony, I'm having more questions.
Wilson's just about as windy. It just ain't got the trees in it to really ruin your day.
Yeah.
Be interesting.
Go ahead, Tim. You got one more question?
Yeah, Mark, I'll kind of want to go around one more time, but Mark, like, and all three of you guys, and personally, but you guys are always like in the top, like usually in the top 5 in that area. So what's your strategy like when you see a new lake? Like, do you read maps? Do you just past history, or when you pull up, you're like, oh, this is a Ned rig bite, this is a frog bite? Like, how do you determine? You know, because like I said, you guys are always in that top 5 usually. What's your mindset going into that? Like, just a random lake. Like when you pull up to a random lake, is it like, okay, there's going to be bass off this point, or you know, there should be bass off here? What's your mindset when you do that?
I can start. It depends if I'm fun fishing or tournament fishing. If I'm fun fishing, I'll just go out and have fun and just pick the lake apart and just try learning it. But tournaments, I'll look at maps and look at contours and stuff like that. I'll even go into YouTube and look at videos, especially if it's a lake that I haven't been for, just to get an idea of what the lake looks like. But I'll look at maps and find areas that I like. I prefer fishing more rocky areas than trying to find trees and that type, and even rivers. I'm not a very good river fisherman, so a couple of river trips that I've done, it's like we've gone out there and we've had torrential rain and the rivers come up. We've done overnight camps in 3 trips and the river came up 5 feet each time. So I'll stay away from a river. But I'll look at maps and stuff like that and just find areas that I'm kind of comfortable with fishing and try to find similar spots and figuring out what time of the year will they be shallow, close to drop offs and that type of stuff.
Okay.
I think my motto is the more you practice, the luckier you get. So I'm going to try. You just start putting yourselves in positions to find fish.
Yeah, I was just curious. You know, I usually finish like somewhere in the middle, and so I'm just like, my mindset is rocks, the dam. That's my mindset usually. Like, I'm good around the rocks, but it seems like, you know, I can never get that next step. So I was just curious. Clayton, what about you? What's your mindset going into any particular lake? Like, hey, this is going to be a Ned rig bite. This could be a frog bite. Like, how do you break down a lake? Maps or, you know, experience, history, all of it?
Yeah, I like to look at maps just to, if it's a new lake that I've never been to before, I try to find areas that I think will hold fish. I try to take into account the time of year, what I think fish should be doing, where I think they should be at. I'll look for areas, kind of what I consider like high percentage areas that I think are going to hold a lot of fish or are likely to hold fish. Those are going to be my starting points, and I'll try to find as many of those. If it's a big lake, I'm going to try to find areas that have a lot of those or as many of those in an area as possible, so I can try to bounce around and hit as many of those in a tournament day as possible. And I'm trying to find places that fish to my strengths. I've never felt like going and trying to learn new things during a tournament is really a very solid game plan. It works occasionally, but most of the time you're going to do better trying to fish to your strengths. So that's what I'm always trying to do. I'm just aware of what I'm most capable of doing. So I'm going to try to find stuff that I think I can do and it's going to work to my advantage. I try to find places that maybe I think other people are going to overlook. Sometimes you can go and pick off some of those fish that maybe it's something that doesn't look as good, but it'll hold a fish or two. You only need 5 bites. So if you can go find a spot that's maybe kind of a more mediocre looking area, but if it's got 5 of the right fish in it, if you work hard enough for them, I'll try to find those areas too on smaller lakes.
Okay. Jay?
Probably fairly similar to Clayton, I guess. Definitely look at maps, like Google Earth and stuff too. Try to look at, some different years if you can pick off some low-level years or stuff like that. Launch it. Being in a kayak and being slow, launch somewhere where you can have a few options to fish and just go from there, I guess. I'm pretty willing to fish in wind as long as it's tolerable. Like, I ain't gonna flip type of thing. So that I'll go fish a windy side to get away from people sometimes, which a lot of times does pay off. But.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you guys need to stick around after the show for a minute, and Tony, I'll give it back to you.
Yeah. Hey, thanks everyone for
thank you.
Mark, for your first time on. Jay and Clayton, thanks for coming back again.
Yeah.
We appreciate all you guys doing it. Thanks for everybody who watched tonight or is going to be watching the recording later. A lot of good info for you guys gave us tonight, and hopefully it'll help out some of the people who are just getting into the kayak tournament fishing, especially the Kansas Kayak Anglers groups. And I know they really appreciate it, and they like watching. If they haven't came up and said, hello and thanks, you guys should definitely do that next time you see them. So everybody, don't forget to subscribe to On the Line and watch YouTube and follow the Kansas Kayak Anglers on Facebook. And you can go to the website, KansasKayakAnglers.com, and make sure you sign up for upcoming events. So I know, Clayton, you've kind of talked about some of your Blue Bass 86, and you got a Facebook page and stuff like that. Mark, do you do any social media stuff?
Not really.
Jay, you do any?
Nope.
No. All right. Well, that's all I have. Thanks, everyone, for watching. And, Derek has one more comment. One of our number one fans here. Thanks. You can say great job, everyone. So thank you. And Tim, anything final words to add? Anybody else?
I'm good to go.
All right. Everyone have a great day, a great afternoon, a great night.
Thanks.